Hello everyone, my name is Carol and today I will be drawing myself in 8 different iconic cartoon styles. So first of all, this is what my avatar looks like, and here's the full body version, which is very roughly drawn because I was lazy, but you get the idea. The first cartoon style I will be replicating is Bee and Puppycat. Ever since I was younger, I really loved watching it when it started out on YouTube. And I'm glad they managed to get themselves onto such a big platform like Netflix. I think the colors and thin line art are what really define Bee and Puppycat's art style. If you look at any screenshot from the show, you will definitely notice that it has a very cute pastel color palette. I think the show also has some anime influences as well, with the way the eyes are drawn and also the highlights in the hair. But in my heart, I will always like the flat colors of the original YouTube series better. I just think it looks nicer, but obviously everyone has different opinions. So in the sketches here, I'm trying my best to mimic the very soft and cute art style. I also noticed that there aren't many sharp edges or corners in the characters, which would make a lot of sense because everyone looks very cuddly and squishy. Lots of round circular shapes are worked into the characters. I think with the whole premise of the series and the look of the backgrounds, it's so easy for this to become someone's comfort show. As for the line art, it's all just one very saturated dark red color, which helps distinguish the character from its environment, but the saturation of the deep red still brings a lot of life to the character. I also noticed from Deckard and Cass's references that there were really simple decorative patterns being used, so I tried to implement that into the tie of my own avatar. And here's the final drawing. Next up, we have the peanut style. Honestly, I think out of all of the cartoon styles I chose, this one should be one of the most recognizable ones. This drawing was honestly so fun to do, and also the one that took the least amount of time. Although it may look very simple because it's in a very carefree doodle style, I still had to make sure I chose the right brushes to be able to emulate the look of using a traditional pen, with the little wobbles and all. I couldn't find a reference for someone with a tie, so I just decided not to include that in this version. Plus, I think it would have ended up looking too cluttered on the torso area anyway. And simplicity is definitely the charm with the peanut style. For the line art, I think the line weight variation is super important for this drawing to look organic and hand-drawn. There was also only one character who had glasses that I could reference off of, which was Marcy, but I think having square glasses is kind of integral to my avatar, so I decided to do that instead of just round glasses. For the hair, you can see that I'm keeping a strip of white for hair highlights, and then randomly scribbling the lines for the rest. But I still had to make sure that there was white spaces left to keep the nonchalant doodle style. And I also added in some stray hairs, as it can be seen in the references of the Peanuts characters. The colors are fairly simple, large blocks of bright colors, but I did think about sticking to the kind of CMYK like printing colors because there's a lot of magenta rather than like peachy pink colors. And this is such a small part of the drawing, but I love the star doodles I did. And anyway, this is the finished drawing. Next we have Carmen San Diego! Honestly, like, why did they make her so hot? Anyway, I don't know how many people would actually know this Netflix show because it's kind of like targeted at kids and like teenagers maybe. But anyway, now you know. The reason that I included it is because I think it has one of the sexiest 2D animated art styles ever. Like the Linus art style looks very clean and slick, but it still uses a lot of textured brushes and gradients for the backgrounds. And it just, it's so good! The clean blocks of color and cell shading definitely tickle my graphic designer brain too. In this show's art style, like the complete opposite of Bee and Puppycat's, uses many sharp angles and straight edges, which makes a lot of sense since half of the cast are evil. And if you don't know the show, that's like kind of like the whole plot. Like she's going up against this evil school, blah blah blah. Anyway, I think it's a fun show. You can watch it because it has nice art. I mean, the plot's like pretty cool too, I guess. But anyway, sexy art. One really random thing that I was super excited about was finding reference for Converse high tops from every show. I just think it's cool to see how different artists or studios would draw them, and I am also just a Converse fangirl, I guess. The human proportion is maintained quite well in this art style, but some features are still designed to help emphasize the personality of the character, as well as keep the silhouette clear. Like, notice how the calves are very pointy triangular shapes. And also, back to the silhouette thing, if character design is something new to you, a clear, readable silhouette is extremely important for the audience to distinguish who that character is, even outside the context of that specific show. It's like why you can guess which Pokemon it is when it's like, who's that Pokemon? It's because they have a clear silhouette. There you go. Also, for this pose, I kind of wanted to make my character hold a knife because it's kind of like, ooh, it's sort of dangerous in the show, but like a well-contained amount of danger because it's still kind of a kids show. But there's only so many ways I can draw myself waving or holding a peace sign, so I don't know if I even had to explain the pose, but that's why I drew it like that. As I mentioned before, this style has basically no line art except for some small details to be able to differentiate like maybe the body from the arm, but it's very minimal usage of line art, and also the face obviously. But for the colors, I think it was safe to choose basically anything as long as the entire color palette for the character was still cohesive but not too muted and gray. Here is the finished piece, and honestly y'all, I look so fucking hot in this style, like damn, I would date her. Next up, we have the beloved Gravity Falls. This was literally one of my favorite cartoon shows when I was younger. It just had everything I liked: mysteries, fun characters, and not too over-the-top humor. For this style, I had to decide if I wanted to go with a small child character proportion or the adult one, cause there is a big difference in height. I thought about it, I'm 19, so the adult one makes sense. And also, details on my jacket would look much better on a less crowded space. There were plenty of character references to go off of, especially Wendy's little friend group of teenagers. I think the way the bodies are drawn are quite simple. The arms and legs are just really long tubes. They have big eyes and the hair tends to be very blocky. However, I do think that the kids in the show have a more consistent bean shape for their faces, while the older characters have varied face shapes. Kind of like how someone will grow into their features more with age. The line art here has some slight variations in the width, which helps with giving the character more weight, although the lines used for the nose and mouth are much thinner compared to the rest of the body. The colors were pretty simple. I just color picked from the already existing palette and used that. I also added some patterns onto the tie, but I redid it once because I thought it looked too busy the first time. And here is the end product. Alright, and next we are moving on to Over the Garden Wall. This one is just a Halloween classic, and I find the show very fun to watch with the quirky characters, but they also give off a creepy, unsettling vibe at the same time. And the first thing I would like to say is that my glasses were a huge struggle for this piece, because I could not for the life of me find a reference for glasses that look normal. So you'll see me literally redraw the eyes like 50 times in the time lapse. At the beginning, I had to either pick between the glasses and eyes of the school teacher's dad, or just not drawing glasses at all. The old man had very small glasses frames and just the pupils for eyes, which didn't look quite right to me, because the over the garden wall style is iconic for its big round eyes. So I did some more digging and thankfully found a character sheet with a lady with glasses. And honestly, it was more simple than I thought. I basically just had to draw the square glasses around the big round eyes. I have no clue why I struggled drawing the eyes for like 30 minutes. Anyway, moving away from the eye struggle, the reason I gave myself angel wings and a fake halo on a wire was because, spoilers ahead, I was trying to give that half-assed Halloween costume look since all of Over the Garden Wall was taking place during Halloween. So I thought it'd be fitting if my avatar also joined in on the fun. And let me just say, it was so helpful that Sarah also had a Letterman/bomber jacket I could reference off of. It just made my life a lot easier. I also really like the stitching detail between the sleeve and main body of the jacket. And can I just say, I absolutely loved using the muted color palette. I was not expecting to love the result of it that much. I'm usually one to pick and favor light pastel colors, but I don't know, just something about the muted colors are just very pleasing to look at, probably because it also feels very cohesive. And next we have Adventure Time. Very iconic. I don't think I even have to introduce it. Although, admittedly, I've only watched a handful of episodes, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out they have a very distinct art style. It's similar to the style of Gravity Falls with the long tubular limbs, however, everything else like the face, hair, and clothing, etc. are much more simple. The line weight is very consistent throughout, and that further adds to the simplicity of the style. Lucky for me, there was a perfect reference for a Letterman jacket for me to use, because Marceline seems to have her own. I do think I drew the sleeve on the left a bit too rigid and flat though, if you compare it to the reference of Marceline with her own jacket. But oh well, guess I was too lazy to go and fix it. It'll just stay like that, it's fine. Oh, and OMG, when getting the references for the Converse shoes, I just had an entire memory unlock from when I was younger because Marshall Lee was the one with the Converse. Why did they make him so hot? For no reason. 12-year-old me was smitten at the very first sight of him. Mans is so fine with the flannel, jeans, and Converse. And he's also a vampire? Bro, take me out. Anyway, on to the serious matters. For the hair, because mine is indeed also black, I noticed that a navy blue outline is used to differentiate the different parts of the hair. So that's what I did and filled the rest in with black. And then I added the 3 stars and pattern to the tie like I've done for all the previous drawings. And here is the finished product. Next up, we have Fairly Odd Parents. I feel like to people my age, this show should be very iconic and easily recognizable. I watched it all the time on TV when I was younger. It was one of the better ones in my opinion. The characters weren't overly annoying and I liked the concept of the show. I think one of the first defining features of this cartoon is how shape-based it is. All the characters in the series have very strong silhouettes. They have big round eyes, very distinctive smiles, and also thick line art. I had a lot of fun designing the body shape of my avatar and tried to use a lot of angular shapes for the most part, with some round edges to add a bit of visual interest, but also trying to keep it simple. However, I still ran into the same issue of drawing the glasses and eyes in this drawing. With the references I found, I had to choose between the one girl that liked Timmy and freaking Crocker. So, we both know how that went. I obviously chose Crocker. No, I'm just kidding. I went with the little girl style of glasses, except I drew mine rectangular, obviously. Also, this is not related to the video, but when I was younger, I always thought Crocker looked so weird because his eyes... No, what? His ears were so low to the point it was basically on his neck. But it's probably for the sake of character design, but also he seemed like a very frail, ill man. Like, he has some really freaking ashy skin. Anyway, backtracking onto the actual artwork. Here you can see I'm doing the line art with the lines on the outside being very thick and the lines on the inside being very thin. For the colors, I kind of just went with my instinct and chose it based off of the references, but stuff like the jeans I directly color dropped. I only drew 1 star in my hair because I didn't want to overcomplicate the design. However, I do think the star is quite fitting though because the wands of the fairy godparents are like stars on a stick. And here is what the finished drawing looks like. Why am I talking like this? And last but not least is Total Drama Island. I will admit that I am guilty for not actually watching this show, and you must be wondering, Carol, why the heck did you decide to put this on the list then? Well, to that, dearest viewer, I answer, it just looks fun. This style is, if not the most shape-based style out of all of the previous cartoons mentioned. The proportions of the characters are pushed quite a lot, especially with the faces, waist, and legs on some characters. I will say with the female characters, a lot of them have round wide hips, and they also have very prominent calves as well. With the design of my avatar, I put down the base of the very large wide hips with prominent calves and worked from there. The main shape I picked for the head was kind of a semicircle, and I added hair onto it from there, which kind of looks like a rectangle after. You'll see it in a bit. Luckily with this series, there were really good references for characters with glasses, so I knew exactly what to draw. If you see my avatar get completely filled in, that's just me checking the silhouette is readable. After that, I used a thick brush to line everything. I only used thinner lines for the facial features. I also redrew the shoulder a bit lower because it was getting too close to the hair, and I wanted to remove the tension points. I think it was a good call because it's much easier to look at that area when there's more negative space for the eyes to rest. And with color, I feel like there's a large variety in color palettes, but overall the cast is very bright and colorful, so I just went for the colors I liked, but still color picked things like the hair. I also did have to redo the shoes because I realized I filled it in with black when my Converse were supposed to be pink. I didn't add my star clip because no one in the cast really had small hair accessories, or at least in the references I found. Plus, there were already lines in the hair to divvy it up into different sections, so I didn't want to make it too crowded. And with that, this is the last style I've imitated for this video. It was honestly a lot of fun. I would definitely do it again with probably video games, anime, or even movie characters. Honestly, the options are endless because there are so many different unique art styles out there. But for today, these are the drawings that I have finished, and I've arranged them from what I think is the least complex to the most complex art style. I think if I had to pick my top 3 favorite styles, number 1 would obviously go to the Carmen San Diego one, and 2 would be Over the Garden Wall, and number 3 would be the Peanut style. I was honestly surprised that I didn't like the Bee and Puppycat one more, but it looks kind of just average compared to all the other ones. Maybe it's because it's not in the magical squirrel form, which I did think about designing, but it would also be too long for the video. Plus, I had 10 hours of real-time footage to begin with, and I didn't want to edit any more than I already had to. This took like forever to make. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this art challenge. I had a lot of fun with it, and I hope you got some childhood nostalgia from watching this. And hey, maybe it's been a while since you've watched your favorite childhood show, and this is a reminder to go rewatch it. Make sure to go check out some of the other drawing challenge videos I've done, and bye! See you in the next one!